The neon lights of 1980s New York pulse with electric energy, but behind the glamour, shadows gather. Nick DeNooyer stands in his 15th floor office, gazing at the city that crowned him a 5-time Emmy winner. The irony cuts deep. A man who built his career creating innocent children's television now orchestrates performances that drive women wild with desire. Chippendales. The name alone ignites fantasies across America, but success demands payment in blood. Steve Banerjee arrives in America with fire in his eyes and ambition coursing through his veins. The East Indian immigrant transforms a failing Los Angeles bar into something unprecedented. Male exotic dancers performing for ladies-only crowds. Money flows like champagne, but local success isn't enough. Banerjee craves empire. He needs polish, sophistication. He needs Nick DeNooyer. The producer initially resists. Too sleazy, too beneath his Emmy-winning reputation. But when Banerjee offers 50% ownership and touring rights worth millions, DeNooyer's resistance crumbles like ancient stone. He takes Banerjee's raw, provocative concept and sculpts it into magnificent art. The newly refined Chippendales explodes across America like a cultural atomic bomb. Sold-out arenas, screaming crowds, revenue streams flowing in torrents. Two men stand atop an empire built on pure desire. But empires constructed on greed always collapse. These partners are about to discover that avarice is poison that destroys everything it touches. Arguments begin quietly, then escalate into warfare. Banerjee demands more control, more profit, more power. He wants a larger percentage of touring profits, but DeNooyer refuses to bow down to the immigrants' increasing demands. Their relationship sours like milk in summer heat. Trust evaporates. Friendship dies. DeNooyer begins planning his escape. A competing troupe that will steal Chippendale's thunder and market share, leaving Banerjee with nothing. Banerjee watches his partner's betrayal unfold with cold calculation. Losing DeNooyer could cost millions. Losing the empire could destroy everything he's built through sweat, manipulation, and ruthless ambition. Some men accept defeat gracefully. Others eliminate the competition permanently. Manhattan Morning arrives with deceptive normalcy. In his Unicorn Productions office, DeNooyer works on deals that will secure his independence from Banerjee forever. Unaware that death stalks through busy corridors, a stranger enters the building. Dark hair, ordinary jeans, invisible enough to blend into New York's anonymous masses. He approaches DeNooyer's colleague with practiced casualness, asking for Nick's location. A simple misdirection buys the producer exactly 30 minutes of life. The colleague points toward DeNooyer's office without looking up from paperwork, never seeing the stranger's face or noticing the suspicious bulge beneath his jacket. Minutes crawl by with agonizing slowness. The stranger disappears into the bathroom, time suspended like a held breath. Then he walks deliberately to DeNooyer's office and opens the door. The gunshot echoes through the building like thunder, shattering the morning's false peace forever. Detective Michael Geddes arrives at a crime scene painted in tragedy. Nick DeNooyer lies dead, a 9mm shell casing the only witness to his final moments. The killer has vanished into 8 million New Yorkers like smoke in wind. No usable fingerprints, no clear description. Just the freight elevator operator's fragmented memory of a man who fled through shadows like a ghost. But Geddes is a hunter, and every killer leaves a trail written in blood and carelessness. DeNooyer's brother provides the first crucial lead, Steve Banerjee's name, the business partner with motive written in dollar signs and burning rage. The funeral becomes a surveillance operation as Geddes memorizes faces, searching for behavioral tells that reveal guilt. Banerjee attends, playing the grieving partner with Oscar-worthy perfection. Too perfect, too controlled, too rehearsed. When investigators contact him in Los Angeles, his responses are textbook careful. Yes, they argued frequently. Yes, he was upset about the competing troupe. But murder? He sounds appropriately shocked, claiming he was 3,000 miles away all day. Being across the continent doesn't establish innocence. It just means he hired someone else to pull the trigger. July 1991, Las Vegas. FBI agent Dan West receives a phone call that shatters the silence surrounding Denuyer's murder like a sledgehammer through glass. A nervous voice claims he was hired to kill 2 people for $25,000. Managers of a male exotic dance troupe touring England. Competitors to Chippendales. But something went wrong. Conscience or fear made the would-be killer back out. And now he desperately wants federal protection. West's instincts scream that this connects to something much larger and more sinister. The caller mentions Ray Colon, a name that will unlock everything. Ray Colon becomes the thread that unravels Banerjee's entire criminal web. A failed musician turned arsonist turned murderer for hire. A man who burned down competing clubs and orchestrated killings on Banerjee's direct orders. Under federal pressure and facing conspiracy charges, Colon's loyalty crumbles like sand. He reveals the truth investigators have suspected for years. Steve Banerjee ordered Nick Denuyer's execution with cold, calculated precision. But Colon offers more than just Denuyer's murder. He unveils a criminal empire built on systematic elimination, arson attacks on competitors, contract killings disguised as random violence, a businessman who solved every problem with bullets and gasoline. The actual triggerman's name finally emerges: Louis Rivera, a heroin addict who killed for cash and disappeared into Los Angeles' vast underworld like a needle in a haystack. The FBI orchestrates an elaborate sting operation to capture Rivera. Using Colon as unwitting bait, they weave a compelling story about a witness to the 1987 murder who needs permanent silencing. Rivera, desperate for money after prison release, takes the deadly job without hesitation. On Christmas Eve, 1992, he confesses everything to federal agents. How he entered Denuyer's building disguised as an innocent messenger. How he waited patiently until the office emptied except for his designated target. How he pulled out a 9mm semi-automatic and fired from 3 feet away, watching life drain from the producer's eyes. The FBI finally has their killer. Now they need the puppet master who gave the order. Banerjee proves too paranoid for conventional surveillance. Every meeting with Colon involves whispers, coded notes, carefully scrubbed conversations that leave no incriminating evidence. The FBI hatches their most ambitious plan yet. They'll lure Banerjee overseas, where his guard might finally drop far from American soil. Rome becomes Colon's supposed hideout. Banerjee, eager to keep his dangerous accomplice quiet and geographically distant, agrees to meet in neutral Zurich, Switzerland. It's the FBI's last, best chance to obtain the confession that will seal Banerjee's fate forever. In a wired hotel room overlooking Zurich's ancient streets, 2 former friends sit down for drinks. One carries the crushing weight of multiple murders. The other wears a wire that will destroy them both. Banerjee's initial paranoia nearly derails the entire operation. He searches Colon for recording devices, speaks only in whispers, remains constantly guarded against electronic surveillance. But alcohol and the illusion of safety in foreign territory gradually loosen his tongue like a key turning in a lock. He talks about the $25,000 he paid for the deed, the murders he ordered in England, The systematic arsons dating back to 1979. After 6 years and 6,000 miles from the crime scene, Steve Banerjee finally confesses to orchestrating his partner's cold-blooded execution. September 2nd, 1993. Outside his Chippendales Club in Los Angeles, Steve Banerjee is arrested for racketeering and first-degree murder. The empire built on desire crumbles in handcuffs and screaming headlines. Facing life imprisonment, Banerjee's lawyers negotiate a plea deal. 26 years in maximum security prison in exchange for guilty pleas and complete forfeiture of his Chippendales empire. But for a man who confused wealth with the American dream, who built success on the graves of his enemies, the punishment feels like death itself. October 1994. A jail cell becomes Steve Banerjee's final stage. The immigrant who came to America seeking fortune, who built an empire on desire's edge, who killed to protect what he'd stolen, makes one last calculated choice. In pre-dawn darkness, while guards make their rounds and other inmates sleep, Banerjee crafts his escape from earthly judgment. No grand speeches, no final confessions, just the cold mathematics of a man who always controlled his exits. They find him hanged with a bedsheet noose, ending the story he wrote in blood and unbridled ambition. Prison officials list it as suicide, but those who knew him understand the truth. This was his final act of control, denying the system its pound of flesh. Detective Geddes receives the dawn phone call, staring long after hanging up, processing the strange, hollow victory. Justice served, but not as intended. The case closes with death's signature. The Chippendales empire survives its creator's crimes, sanitized and transformed. Entertainment without murder's stain. But in success, story's shadows lurk cautionary tales of partnerships poisoned by greed, dreams corrupted by violence, and men who mistake accumulation for true achievement. Steve Banerjee came to America chasing success. Instead, he discovered that some prices are too high to pay, and some empires aren't worth the blood required to build them. In the end, desire destroyed the man who profited from it most.